Fire and Silver, written by Wes Valor, narrated by Luke Walrath. Chapter 4. Candlelight flickered softly as Aaliyah Goodwick's skilled hands moved across Prince Victor's chestnut skin. He rested on a massage table in his private quarters, seeking a moment of peace as she worked grief from his muscles. It had only been 2 days since Malcolm's death. She started at his upper back, firm, gentle, slowly loosening sorrow buried deep within. By the time she reached his lower back, a fragile calm had settled over him. For a moment, the pain dulled beneath her healing touch. Victor wished that fleeting peace could last forever. "Feel better, Your Highness?" Aaliyah asked. "You don't have to call me that. Victor is fine." "Sorry. Habit. Turn over, please." She wore a white lingerie nightgown and leaned in to kiss him, but Victor pulled back, his brother's death still heavy on his mind. "Something's wrong," she said gently. "You've never pulled away before." "My brother. I keep seeing him." "That's normal. But life has to go on. The kingdom will survive." "Will it? He would have been a fine ruler." "So will you," she said softly. "I'm not so sure." "You couldn't do worse than your mother," she added with a quiet laugh. "Hey, be kind. She just lost her son." "I'm sorry, sweetie, but she hates me. She wants you to marry an elf." She kissed his back again. This time, he let her. Then, he turned and pulled her into an embrace. "Then, on her behalf," Victor said, "I apologize. I'll talk to her. Maybe she'll come around." Aaliyah snickered. "Your mother. Not a chance." Victor shook his head, grinning. "On second thought, you're probably right." "What about your father?" Aaliyah asked. "Ezekiel, right? You never mention him. Starting to think he never existed." He scratched the back of his neck. "Yeah, we didn't exactly get along. I was closer to my uncle Jericho. He has silver eyes like mine." "Oh? Same powers, too?" Victor nodded. "Yeah, it's called the silver gene. It's rare, random even, but it only shows up in our bloodline. My father didn't have it. He grew jealous, resented Jericho, resented me, eventually sent Jericho away. I haven't seen him since my father's funeral. I was 14. "How did he—" "Die?" Victor said flatly, cutting her off. "If you don't want to talk about it, I get it," Aaliyah offered, gently touching his shoulder. "No, I'll tell you," he said quietly. "But you have to promise not to tell anyone." "You're even cuter when you act dramatic," she teased. "You should be an actor. You've got the looks." But Victor didn't smile. He stared ahead, silent. An ugly memory stirred. Ezekiel. Father. 10 years ago, when Victor was 14, he awoke in the dead of night to the sound of heartbeats echoing from downstairs. His room was pitch black, the windows shuttered, but the pounding in his ears, his own heartbeat, was deafening, like phantom knocks no one else could hear. Then came another realization. It wasn't just his heartbeat. He was hearing others, scattered throughout the palace. Scowling, he clamped his hands over his ears. The silver gene was awakening, bringing with it the first signs of his heightened senses. His father, High King Ezekiel, didn't possess the silver gene himself, but he knew its traits well, thanks to Victor's uncle Jericho and their grandfather, the previous bearer. Jericho had tried to help Victor understand it, though he was still learning to master it himself. Victor carried the silver gene, abilities that developed gradually over time. His vision had sharpened, letting him see in the dark like an owl. But it wasn't his Silvergene senses that woke him tonight. It was something else, a disturbing feeling. Sweat beaded on his umber skin. There was a heaviness in the air, a wrongness he couldn't quite name. He slipped out of bed and grabbed a towel, wiping his face. Something was pulling him downstairs, a tension he couldn't ignore. Call it intuition. The air felt thick with emotion, rage, and heartbreak, like invisible waves pulsing through the halls. Someone was arguing, fiercely. Maybe the servants? But it was late. Most had already retired for the night. So who was fighting? In the next room, Victor peeked through the door and saw his 8-year-old brother Malcolm fast asleep. Out of habit, he reached for the lantern, but paused and returned it to the wall hook. Seeing in the dark was still new. His Silvergene vision had only awakened a week ago. Wrapping a robe around himself, Victor moved quietly down the hall. A grand white marble staircase curved down to the first floor, where 6 living rooms, 2 kitchens, 5 bathrooms, and a single study sprawled across the estate. Drawn by the sharp edge of rising tension, Victor made his way toward the double doors of his father Ezekiel's study. To his surprise, the voices belonged to his parents. They were the ones arguing. The study doors were usually left open, but tonight they were shut, which only deepened Victor's curiosity. He hesitated as he approached, their voices rising, emotional pressure radiating from within. Thunder cracked outside, sudden and fierce, echoing the storm inside. Against his better judgment, he cautiously eased the door open and peered through the crack. A warm orange glow spilled from the fireplace. Queen Bernice stood inside, dressed in a violet evening gown with matching elbow-length gloves, her eyes cast downward. Across from her stood High King Ezekiel Aaronwood, an imposing figure at 6'7". He wore a white shirt beneath a black jacket that hung from his tall, muscular frame. Though balding, his face remained stoic, weathered and carved in stone. "You're pathetic. I took you for a king," the queen spat, glaring up at him. "You're giving up all this power for what? To play house with your little mistress?" "Shut up," Ezekiel snapped. "She loves me, unlike you. I never wanted to be High King. It was forced on me." Bernice let out a cruel laugh, loud and scornful. "Oh, poor Ezekiel! Woe is you!" she mocked. "Tired of your pampered life, so now you're deserting your family for a common whore? You're a clown, a sad, pathetic joke. Go on then, run to her, be free." Ezekiel turned toward the door, but Bernice suddenly bent down, pulling a small pistol from her boot. From the other, she retrieved a silencer and calmly screwed it onto the barrel. "You're not going anywhere," she snarled, aiming the gun. Ezekiel froze, then turned to face her. "What the hell are you doing, Bernice?" Tears streamed down her cheeks. "You son of a bitch! Did you ever love me?" He raised his hands slowly. "You won't do it," he said, voice low but confident. "You're not that bold. Now put the gun down and—" She pulled the trigger. He moved just in time to save his head, but the bullet tore through his shoulder. He barely reacted. With a snarl, Ezekiel charged. The bullet wound only fed his fury. He slammed his fist into her jaw, then her ribs, again and again, until she crumpled and the gun slipped from her grasp. "You shot me, you evil bitch!" he roared. He grabbed her by the throat and slammed her onto a wooden table. It collapsed beneath the force. Victor, watching through a crack in the door, flinched. His father's eyes burned with rage, lips curled in a twisted grin, like a predator toying with its prey. Ezekiel hauled Bernice up again and hurled her into the wall. Her back smashed against the wooden panels with a brutal thud. Victor burst into the room, heart pounding. The study, a place once filled with quiet books and velvet chairs, was now a wreck of broken furniture and violence. "Stop!" young Victor shouted. "Don't hurt my mother!" Ezekiel scowled. "Go back to sleep, boy. This doesn't concern you," he growled, hoisting Bernice off the ground by her throat. Her feet dangled helplessly as he tightened his grip. His laughter rang out, unhinged, but tears shimmered in his eyes. Rage, bitterness, grief, they all warred inside him. Hurting his wife in front of their child wasn't what he wanted, but it was happening anyway. "You saw her," he said through clenched teeth. "She tried to kill me. You don't know the real her. Cold, heartless. She pushed me away, not the other way around. Someday, when you're older, you'll understand. But not tonight. Go back to bed and forget what you saw." He raised his fist and began punching Bernice, brutal blows to her ribs and stomach, denying her a single breath. Victor's blood boiled. He had to stop him. Now. Rage surged through him as he thrust out his hand, fingers curling into an invisible grip. His telekinesis, still unstable, surfaced only in moments of extreme emotion. Fueled by fury, he poured everything into choking the life from Ezekiel. Nothing happened. Victor clenched his jaw, the power inside him seething like a storm. Then, Ezekiel raised his hand again, preparing to slam Bernice's head against the wall. "Let her go!" Victor screamed. His silver eyes flared, and his hand shot forward. He wouldn't fail again. Ezekiel dropped Bernice and staggered back, foam bubbling from his mouth. He convulsed as an invisible force crushed his throat, his windpipe folding with a sickening crunch. His fingers clawed at his neck in a final, desperate reflex before he crumpled to the floor, blood spilling from his lips. A painful death for a man who had caused so much pain. Victor stood frozen, chest heaving. His mother collapsed against him, clinging with a trembling hug. Her evening gown was torn, her face bloodied. She held him tight. "You did the right thing," she rasped. "He was a gangrenous limb. We had to cut it off." As she pulled away, Victor stood pale with shock, staring at his trembling hands. He hadn't known he held that kind of power. Bernice straightened, now towering over Ezekiel. She narrowed her eyes at his corpse, lips curling into something fierce and primal. "Who the hell do you think you are now?" she spat. "Look at you! Not so big now! Not so tough!" she shrieked, unleashing a scream so wild it seemed to chill the air. She stomped on his neck again and again, the thickening thud of her heel on flesh echoing with each blow, blood splattering beneath her feet. He was already dead, but she didn't care. Her rage was unhinged, set free. Victor turned away, shame and grief crashing over him. His silver eyes glistened with unshed tears, disgusted as he watched the two people who had given him life, ruined, broken, monstrous. Back in the present, Victor finished recounting the memory. It felt like dragging a nightmare into daylight. "And that's why I don't talk about him," he said, tears slipping down his cheeks. "It's one thing to watch a man lose his mind. Another, when that man is your father." Aaliyah's eyes widened. "That's horrific. I didn't realize it was that bad. What he did to your mother, and to you, and Malcolm." Victor nodded. "I don't talk about it much. Sorry for dumping all that." She kissed his forehead. "Don't apologize. I'm glad you trusted me. That must have been so hard to carry." A faint smile touched his lips, It was, but we made it through. Aaliyah hesitated, still searching for words. Victor offered an out. We can switch now. We don't have to, honey. I can keep going. No, he said gently. It's your turn. They shifted positions. Aaliyah slipped off her white lingerie, candlelight casting a golden glow across her skin. Her presence was a balm. Victor hadn't said it aloud, but he loved her in his own complicated way. She had a shapely figure, flawless olive skin, and a quiet nobility that came not from blood, but from spirit. Victor's hands moved along her back, firm and deliberate. A soft hum escaped her lips as tension melted beneath his touch. Ooh, you're good, she murmured, voice sultry. Trinity mages are blessed in certain areas. Victor arched a brow. Do elaborate, my love. She glanced back, smiling. They say our libidos burn hotter than most, and only grow stronger with each encounter. A slow grin spread across his face. Is that so? He murmured, leaning in. No wonder your mouth feels like the closest thing to heaven. Aaliyah rolled onto her back, eyes gleaming. Victor brushed her jaw, lifting her chin to meet his smoldering gaze. Of all the women I've known, he said, voice low, you're by far the most skilled, a true master of your craft. Her smile turned wicked. Careful, my prince. I'm a fast learner, and I've only just begun to show you my talents. Victor chuckled, silver eyes glinting. Talents, Speaking of which, Trinity mages can wield 3 elements at once, right? Aaliyah arched her brow. So, you've been reading up on me? You could have asked. He shrugged. I'm asking now. Your powers have always been a bit of a mystery. As his hands moved along her arms, Victor's fingers brushed the small triangle on her forearm. This birthmark. Unusual, but I like it. It's a birthmark, she said coyly, almost embarrassed. All Trinity mages are supposed to have them. I'm the only one left. Only one of us is born every few centuries. Victor's eyes narrowed with interest. Did your parents teach you that? Aaliyah shook her head, a bittersweet smile tugging at her lips. They never understood me. Probably feared me a little. She traced the mark softly. It was my grandmother who told me the truth, what I really am. Her mismatched eyes met his, calm but intense. Everything you've read is true, Prince. I was born with rare gifts. I can heal, summon fire, and command electricity. Most mages only get one. I have 3. Victor's eyes widened in surprise. He'd never met anyone so powerful. Perhaps someone who could rival his own strength. She flipped onto her stomach with casual ease, as if it was nothing to reveal she was the rarest mage in the world. Even he and his uncle shared the same gifts. But she was truly alone. On the Eden continent, mages were sorted by element. Pyromancers for fire, cryomancers for ice, electromancers for lightning, and vitamomancers for healing. Vitamomancers ran hospitals across the land, but Aaliyah was different. As a rare Trinity mage, she could wield pyro, electro, and vita, a gift that set her apart from other mages. Victor's expression softened. We've never talked about your parents, he said gently. What was it like growing up in the Emerald Kingdom? Were you close to them? A smile touched his lips. I've never been, but I've heard it's beautiful. Warm beaches, endless sun. Sounds like paradise. After opening up to her, he hoped she would do the same. Get my shoulders. They're tense, she said. Gotcha, honey, he replied. Is she stalling? He wondered. Come on, Aaliyah. Don't be shy. I told you something real, something personal. Her voice cut through his thoughts. I was born in Mensen, she said softly. But my grandmother raised me in the Emerald Kingdom. Aaliyah reached for his hand, gently stopping the massage. She sat up, eyes lowered, then slowly lifted them to meet his. She hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. You shared something painful. I guess it's only fair I do the same. She hitched her breath. Back in Mensen, my father, he killed my mother when I was little. Shot her right there in our home. Her gaze drifted, unfocused. He's still in Mensen City Prison for it. Victor swallowed hard, the weight of her words sinking in. Careful what you wish for, Victor, he thought. His eyes widened. Aaliyah, I'm so sorry. That must have been incredibly hard. Seeing something like that, it never really leaves you. She gave a tight smile. I visited him a few months ago. I can't make portals, so the train ride was unbearable. I can imagine, Victor said, remembering his trip to Sapphire when he was younger and Malcolm was just a toddler. Getting to Sapphire takes 4 days by train. Aaliyah nodded. Yeah, it was complicated. Nearly a week each way from Mensen to Onyx. But I needed the closure. I was just trying not to die from boredom. Mensen was the largest human city on Eden, self-governed, independent of the 4 elven kingdoms, and ruled solely by humans, a rare beacon of human power on a continent dominated by elves. If anyone can relate, Victor said quietly, it's me. Fathers, they're the hardest to face. I never got along with mine. His voice tightened. That bastard wrapped his hands around my mother's throat. He let out a heavy sigh. She survived, but that's not the point. Betrayal like that, breaking the trust between a father and his son, leaves scars that never really heal. I will always hate him. Aaliyah wrapped her arms around him, holding him tightly, as if trying to ease both their pain at once. A long quiet settled between them. Victor could still feel the ache in her voice, and he hoped she could feel his in return. Otherwise, what was the bloody point of sharing it if it didn't bring them closer? Growing tired of the stillness, Victor pulled back and cleared his throat. Enough grim stories, my love, he said, forcing a lighter tone. His gaze shifted to the acoustic guitar leaning against the bookcase. I know what'll cheer her up, he thought. Victor glanced at her, at those pretty eyes, one green and one brown, and felt a sudden swell of inspiration. Smiling, he picked up the guitar and began to strum softly, improvising a song just for her. With raven hair and olive skin, a glow that stirs the soul within. Your form, your grace, a wondrous light, a vision born of star-kissed night. Your wit and warmth a joyful flame, each laugh you give, I bless your name. But your eyes, those gems that shine, emerald and brown, forever mine. In your gaze I lose my way, a spell I'd never cast away. By your side I'm truly free. In your love I found the key. As the final chord faded, Aaliyah gasped, tears slipping down her cheeks. Overwhelmed, she threw her arms around Victor and kissed him deeply. Their lips lingered, and Victor met her with fiery passion. Her magic stirred. Electricity jolted through him, sharp and sudden. He flinched, but didn't pull away. "Sorry," she whispered. "Accident." He smiled and pulled her closer. Nothing else mattered, just her and the world falling silent. "I don't need 100 women to seduce me," he murmured. "Just one who can do it 100 ways." Aaliyah smirked, brushing his jaw. 100, huh? But I'll take the lead from here, he said, his hand sliding to her breast, gentle, certain. All night, their bodies met again and again, hearts and breath entwined. Victor's telekinesis lifted them from the bed, suspending them in the air, as if passion had freed them from gravity. Afterward, Aaliyah traced circles on his chest, lips curved in quiet joy. "That was lovely," she whispered. "Was I too strong?" Victor beamed. "Perfection is the only word worthy of you." She kissed him, fierce and affectionate, then sat back, eyes gleaming. The night had been theirs, weightless, wild, and full of love in the clouds.